The more we move into the perilous times spoken of in the Holy Bible, the more people are becoming interested in the prophetic aspects of the Bible. We are indeed living in the beginning of sorrows, witnessing wars, rumors of wars, nations rising against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms, as well as famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. As these events continue to occur in the world, both believers and unbelievers are increasingly fascinated and hungry to know about the end times. Recently, I was listening to an unbelieving news presenter who spoke about the terrifying accuracy of Matthew 24 and how well it depicts the world we live in. They cannot deny it. Even unbelievers cannot deny the accuracy of Scripture. There are now films incorporating elements of biblical eschatology, and Hollywood is capitalizing on this public interest in end times. These include films about Armageddon and blockbuster movies depicting the apocalypse. It seems that many people harbor a peculiar intuition that we are indeed living in the final days. One of the principal figures in biblical prophecy is the first beast, known as the Antichrist. This entity, a man, an individual unlike any the world has ever seen, has sparked widespread speculation. The identity of the Antichrist, or the first beast, has been a subject of intense conjecture. The beast and its enigmatic number have fueled various theories throughout history regarding the true identity of the Antichrist. Influential figures have risen and fallen, and during their ascent, some were labeled by observers as the Antichrist or linked to his system, only for these assertions to be disproven later. In hindsight, many of these claims appear quite extravagant, a reminder that we should be cautious in suggesting that someone might be the Antichrist today. Take, for instance, Emperor Nero, the infamous Roman emperor who ruled from 54 to 68 CE, known for his notorious persecution of Christians. If the Greek spelling of Nero Caesar, Neron Kaiser, is transliterated into Hebrew, the numerical equivalent is 666. In simple terms, his name in Hebrew can add up to 666. Adolf Hitler was labeled by some as the Antichrist for obvious reasons. Take, for instance, the book, The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea presents the intriguing thesis that the British monarchy, and specifically Prince Charles of Wales, fulfills the Bible's prophecies about the Antichrist. Authored by Tim Cohen, the book delves into biblical prophecy, historical data, and the symbolism found in the heraldry of the British royal family to support its claims. Cohen argues that Prince Charles has the lineage, the influence, and the religious and political significance required to fulfill the role of the Antichrist, as outlined in the Book of Revelation and other biblical texts. Throughout American history, the intriguing and often controversial idea that every president since George Washington could potentially be the Antichrist has persisted. This speculation stems from the significant influence and power the President of the United States wields both domestically and internationally, making them prime candidates for such suspicion in the eyes of those who interpret contemporary events through the lens of biblical prophecy. Since the days of George Washington, the nation's very first president, there has been a tendency to scrutinize the actions and policies of presidential leaders, measuring them against the descriptions and predictions found in biblical texts regarding the end times. This scrutiny has not been limited to any one era or leader. Instead, it has spanned the entire history of the United States, with almost every president finding themselves at one point or another on the Antichrist suspect list. Notable presidents such as Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, John F. Kennedy, JFK, Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama have all been named by various individuals and organizations as potentially fulfilling the role of the Antichrist. These suspicions have been based on a variety of factors, ranging from their policies, charisma, and international influence, to more esoteric criteria, such as their names, the numerology associated with them, or specific actions they have taken that could be interpreted as fulfilling biblical prophecies. For instance, Ronald Reagan's name was noted for having 6 letters in each of his 3 names, Ronald Wilson Reagan, leading some to link him to the number 666, which is the number of the beast in Revelation chapter 13. people will use imaginative ways to link an individual to the number 666. Similarly, Barack Obama's global popularity and his policies, which were seen by some as leading towards a more unified world government, fueled speculation about his potential role in end-times prophecy. This pattern of speculation reflects a deeper human tendency to seek patterns and signs in the world around us, especially when it comes to understanding and predicting pivotal and cataclysmic events. The role of the President of the United States, given its significant power, naturally attracts such speculation, especially among those who are deeply invested in eschatological end-times beliefs. Consider another category of individuals frequently labeled as potential antichrists: the billionaires. In the modern era, the figure of the billionaire has risen to prominence, wielding significant influence not only in the realms of business and finance, but also in politics, culture, and even global policy. This influence, combined with their vast wealth and often charismatic personalities, has led to a fascinating phenomenon. Anytime a charismatic billionaire appears on the global stage, they are swiftly identified by some as potentially being the Antichrist. This speculation is rooted in the belief that someone with immense wealth and influence could have the means to fulfill the prophecies described in biblical eschatology concerning the end times. The notion hinges on several key characteristics attributed to the Antichrist in biblical texts: immense power, the ability to sway public opinion and manipulate global events, and the promise of ushering in a period of peace and prosperity, only to lead humanity into deception and ruin. Billionaires, with their vast resources, international networks, and sometimes philanthropic endeavors, fit neatly into this narrative for those inclined to view contemporary events through the lens of prophecy. Their ability to impact economies, influence political decisions, and shape the media narrative gives them a sort of omnipresence that can seem almost supernatural to the devoutly religious observer. Moreover, the philanthropic and technological ambitions of some billionaires, aiming to solve global issues like poverty, climate change, or even achieving technological singularity, can be interpreted by some as attempts to create a utopia on Earth, a goal that aligns with certain interpretations of the Antichrist's false promises of peace and prosperity. Figures such as Bill Gates, with his efforts in global health through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or Elon Musk, with his ventures that aim to revolutionize transportation both on Earth and in space, or Mark Zuckerberg, often become focal points of such speculation. Their initiatives, while widely celebrated for their potential to address pressing global challenges, are also scrutinized by some who see them as fulfilling the Antichrist's role of leading humanity astray through the guise of progress and innovation. Throughout history, numerous influential figures have risen to prominence, capturing the public's imagination and, at times, suspicion. During their ascent, some of these individuals have been labeled by observers as the Antichrist or accused of being linked to his system. These assertions, often made with conviction, have later been disproven or fallen out of favor as the narrative around these figures changed. In hindsight, many of these claims seem quite extravagant, serving as a stark reminder of the complexities involved in interpreting contemporary events through the lens of biblical prophecy. The tendency to identify public figures, be they political leaders, billionaires, or influential personalities, with the Antichrist stems from a deep human desire to make sense of the world, especially in times of uncertainty or turmoil. The figure of the Antichrist, as described in biblical texts, is associated with deception, great power, and the ability to lead humanity away from divine truth. It's understandable, then, that individuals who wield significant influence or embody change might be viewed through this lens by those seeking signs of the end times. However, this practice of labeling contemporary figures as the Antichrist has led to a multitude of speculative and unfounded claims. It highlights the danger of applying biblical prophecies to modern individuals without a clear understanding of the criteria involved. Many of these claims, upon reflection, appear to be more about the fears and anxieties of the time than about the individuals themselves. As we consider the future and the eventual arrival of the figure known as the Antichrist on the world stage, it's crucial to approach the subject with discernment and caution. The Antichrist, according to biblical prophecy, will exhibit specific characteristics and undertake certain actions that distinguish him from other influential figures. Firstly, he claims to be God and will be worshipped, and he will blaspheme God. The first characteristic of the Antichrist should surprise us. This is his ultimate goal. He wants to be seen as God and Christ and then be worshipped. Indeed, when he comes, he will be worshipped. The approach he takes will compel people to worship him. He will perform acts others cannot do, offer solutions others cannot provide, and bring peace where others have failed. Matthew chapter 24 verse 24 states, "For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect." Similarly, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 3-4 warns, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." The second action he will undertake is to speak evil against God. He will malign God to deceive many into worshiping him. The Antichrist will divert people's attention from God to himself by claiming himself to be God. Driven by pride, the Antichrist will not revere God. Instead, he will speak ill of him. Revelation chapter 13 verse 6 confirms this. "And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven." He will demonstrate complete and utter disdain and disrespect for God, insulting God by declaring himself divine. In the book of Leviticus, God established a solemn decree against the act of blasphemy, underscoring the sanctity of his name with the utmost gravity. He declared, Leviticus chapter 24 verses 16, "Whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. The entire assembly shall stone him." This commandment illustrates the severe consequence of disrespecting the divine, highlighting blasphemy as an act warranting the ultimate penalty under the law. This decree not only served as a testament to the holiness and reverence owed to God, but also set a precedent for the seriousness with which blasphemy was to be regarded. In a future fulfillment of divine justice, the Lord will bring an abrupt halt to the Antichrist's acts of blasphemy. Despite the Antichrist's efforts to elevate himself above God, proclaiming himself as divine and seeking worship from humanity, his fate is irrevocably sealed. Revelation chapter 19 verse 20 foretells the moment of reckoning, stating, "And the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who in his presence had done the signs, by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone." This passage signifies the ultimate demise of the Antichrist and his associate, the false prophet, as a direct intervention by God to put an end to their blasphemy and deception. Their consignment to eternal punishment in the lake of fire represents the fulfillment of divine justice, mirroring the Old Testament's stringent stance against blasphemy, but on an eternal and cosmic scale. The narrative transition from the Old Testament law in Leviticus to the prophetic fulfillment in Revelation encapsulates a continuum of divine justice and the immutable nature of God's stance on blasphemy. While the Antichrist will, for a time, seem to wield power and lead many astray with his blasphemous claims, his end is predetermined by God's sovereign will. The stark contrast between the temporary ascendancy of the Antichrist and his ultimate downfall underscores a fundamental truth. No act of defiance against God will go unpunished, and all blasphemy is ultimately self-defeating. Secondly, the number 666, commonly referred to as 666, stands as a profound symbol of evil and malevolence throughout the annals of Christian eschatology. Its mention conjures images of dark forces at play, serving as a stark reminder of the pervasive influence of the Antichrist in the world. The association of 666 with the Antichrist is deeply rooted in the book of Revelation, where it is explicitly presented as the number of the beast, a direct reference to the Antichrist's presence and his wicked undertakings. Revelation chapter 13, verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. This passage underscores the critical importance of recognizing the number 666 as a definitive marker of the Antichrist's influence. It is a symbol laden with foreboding, signaling the presence of evil and serving as a beacon for discerning believers to identify the workings of the Antichrist in the world. When you observe someone pushing for the global adoption of a mark on the forehead or right hand, understand that this individual is the Antichrist or an agent within his system. Similarly, if you notice someone trying to dictate the terms of buying and selling, controlling these fundamental aspects of daily life, that person is either the Antichrist himself or a key figure in his operation. While the precise meaning of the number 666 remains uncertain at present, there is no doubt that we will unmistakably recognize its significance when the man of sin, the Antichrist, makes his appearance. The significance of 666 extends beyond a mere numeral. It is a symbol that any time it is seen or emphasized, one should be acutely aware that evil forces are at play. This number, intrinsically linked with the Antichrist, serves as a clear and unmistakable sign of his endeavors to deceive and lead astray. Moreover, when this number is being pushed, propagated, or otherwise emphasized, especially by an individual benefiting from its promotion, discerning observers should be alert to the possibility that they are witnessing the Antichrist at work. The man who champions the number 666, who finds gain in its dissemination and intertwines his identity or his cause with it, is likely the very embodiment of the Antichrist. His actions, cloaked in the guise of progress or enlightenment, are in truth a manipulation aimed at furthering his dark agenda. Thirdly, the Antichrist is associated with the third temple. History is moving along a line. There was a beginning, and there will be an end. God has history on a timeline. The Bible attests to this. The Bible assures us of this reality, that we are moving along a timeline of scheduled prophetic events. Now, within this timeline, and within Scripture, particularly we see in Christian eschatology, time and time again a temple appearing. Time and time again in Christian eschatology, a temple appears. Daniel chapter 9 verse 27. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1:7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation, until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. Matthew 24, verses 15 to 16. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 4. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. The Antichrist is associated with the third temple. Once this temple is built or is about to be built, look for the Antichrist. The verses from Daniel, Matthew, and 2 Thessalonians intertwine to create a compelling tapestry of prophetic imagery, deeply rooted in the significance of the temple as central to end times eschatology. The temple, both a physical and symbolic space, stands at the center of spiritual worship. Its presence or absence has shaped, and will continue to shape, critical events in the biblical timeline. Daniel chapter 9 verse 27 states, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate." This verse suggests that the temple must be standing and functional for these actions to occur, indicating that in the middle of a 7-year period, The regular religious offerings will stop, a significant event because the temple is the primary place where sacrifices and offerings take place. Additionally, the ominous abomination that causes desolation is set up within the temple, an event echoed in Matthew chapter 24, verses 15 to 16, which says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains." This abomination, whatever its form, is seen as a direct affront to God and his place of worship. Matthew's account further amplifies the urgency and severity of this event. The reference to the prophet Daniel establishes a continuity of prophecy, bridging the Old and New Testaments. The call for those in Judea to flee to the mountains upon witnessing the abomination underscores the magnitude of the impending danger. While the exact nature of the abomination of desolation is debated among scholars, the focus here is on the temple in which this abomination will take place. A temple is coming, signifying profound implications for end times prophecy, and once this temple appears, also look for the arrival of the Antichrist. The concept of constructing a temple in today's political landscape seems almost inconceivable due to where the third temple is to be located. The location of the third temple, which plays a significant role in end times prophecy, is believed to be on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The intricacies of international diplomacy, regional tensions, religious differences, and deeply entrenched historical contexts make such an endeavor tense with challenges. One might question how, in a world as interconnected and as attuned to the nuances of global politics as ours, a temple could be built without igniting a series of conflicts. Yet, the scriptures suggest that during the tribulation, not only will the construction of the temple become feasible, but it will also be safeguarded and even championed by the Antichrist, as mentioned in Daniel chapter 9, verse 24 to 27.